All right, all right, all right. Hello, 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 Panther Nation. It is your favorite instructor, indie author, Kay McCoy, and this is week 2 for our creative writing inspired storytelling for aspiring authors class. So, we already had our introductions and we talked a little bit about our purpose, but I wanted to go ahead and review that for this recap. And before we get into weeks 2, this is just a quick recap. This class is again designed for those that would like to work on improving their pen, their craft when it comes to writing creatively. You don't have to be an aspiring author to take this course, but it is specifically designed with an aspiring author in mind. So if you are a new author or if you are a more seasoned author just looking to kind of refresh and reconnect, or if you are a creator who just wants to be a little bit more quick with the wit when it comes to writing your captions or your newsletters or what have you, this is still a course you may want to take. So thank you again for watching this video. And again, let's just briefly touch on purpose. What is it that you want to write and why? And it's okay if your purpose changes. You just want to be aware of that, because being aware of that will help you further on when it comes to writing whatever it is that you're writing, whether it's an essay or a short story, or if you are working on a collection, or if you're working on your first novel. If you are working on your first novel, congratulations. You have a very interesting road ahead of you. Mm. Now, having said that, we can go ahead and get into week 2, which is coherence. And I know a lot of people are wondering, well, what do you mean coherence? Like, of course my story makes sense. Does it though? Does it really? We're going to get into that. So let's go ahead and briefly talk about coherence. What does that mean exactly? We're talking about components, the things that make up your story when you are writing together. Because once you start writing, it sounds good, you're getting the words out, your draft, it's going to be crunchy, it's going to be rough. That's really what a draft is. You're telling yourself the story. And sometimes when we do that, it doesn't always make sense. The meaning somehow gets lost in the sauce. You got a multitude of ideas coming at you. That's fine. That's why you are getting it out. Okay. So having said that, coherence is very important, because how you choose to write, what components, what elements you choose to use to get that story out, they have to have meaning. They have to make sense. So when you are getting into the thick of it, when you are telling yourself the story by writing the first draft to your story, this is a checkpoint for you to kind of figure out, is this coherence? Like, is this making sense? Have I lost the meaning of the story already? And it's okay if you did. We listen and we don't judge. So if you lost the meaning, that's okay. You can get it back. Something that I recommend doing is having an outline. So, do you have an outline for your story? Um, an outline, it can be just a brief overview of your characters, who your main characters are. We're not going to get too much into your secondary characters or your day players just yet, but you have to know who are the main characters in your story. Where is it going to take place? Really, what's happening? What is the plot to the story? Like, you can have a really badass character, but if they're just there, why? We're in it for the plot at this point. Um, we want to be there for the character, so you got to have character and plot. That's where the story is coming. Who are the characters? Again, we need to know who the main characters are when you start the story. Now, for us more advanced authors, there is an exception to this rule. However, you as the author, you need to know. The readers don't need to know yet, because you don't have any readers yet. No one should be reading the story yet, because you're still writing it. So keep that in mind. And what is the conflict? What is it that makes the reader in your mind, you are hoping, what makes the reader want to keep reading the story? What is it about your story that is going to have them turning page after page? Like, this is a good time to kind of check in, make sure you have those things. Now, you don't have to do an outline. Again, this is merely a suggestion. You don't have to do it, but it is helpful at this point if you still find yourself losing what makes your story have meaning. Okay? So, having said that, that's all I'm going to say in regards to that. We can talk more over on our forum in regards to that, but you're really looking for things that connect the story. So it can be anything from, again, a short story to a novel to an epic novel to a series, especially if you're writing a series. Each character, you have to make sure that the reader can follow their journey and that it will continue to make sense. If you have the character doing something completely out of order for them or completely abnormal, the reader has to know why they're doing that. Otherwise, you're going to lose them. So keep that in mind as you're writing the draft to your story. Okay. So now we're going to talk a little bit about methods that you can use to help you keep up with why your story has meaning. So your structure of your story, this is really, really important. Like a well-structured story, it does have a formula. Okay, there is a formula. There's a formula for a reason. It's almost like getting on a roller coaster. You're anticipating doing it before you even get there. Like you're setting yourself up for this. Like readers want to go on that ride with you. Okay, so ways you can do that by introducing the settings of the story. You can highlight a character like immediately from the story. Like let the reader get a glimpse into what it is that you want them to see. And while you're doing that, make sure that the topic is clear. They have to know what they're getting into, even if it's just bit by bit. They have to know. You have to let them know what is the main idea. There has to be one. There has to be one single idea found in each paragraph. If you have multiple ideas, you're just throwing them at people. It can be a little overwhelming, and most readers will tap out because that's not what they want to read like right off the bat. And what are the beats in your story? So let's talk about beats. And I use beats because that's a commonly used expression. Remember how I said it's kind of like a roller coaster when you start reading a story because you have a formula already. Like you have, okay, what is happening? You have that introduction where you meet your characters or your setting. You're being thrown into this imaginary, beautiful, dangerous, mystical world. Okay. Now you start to meet your characters, you're familiar with their settings. Okay, now it's going to, there's an incline. There's something happening. There has to be momentum. There has to be action. And once that action reaches its highlight, its peak, if you will, depending on what you write, that may be more suitable for you. You have a climax. And what happens after the climax? Okay, you got to come down. And when you come down, that's when the smoke clears and everyone in the story who needs to know what they know, or things are slowly starting to turn around. The smoke has cleared and we're leading to either a resolution or we are continuing. If you are a soap opera fan, you know an opera is something that goes on and on and on. How are you setting that up for your readers to be intrigued to continue going on this story with you? So either you decide once you get to meet the introduction to people, the settings, the rising, how everything keeps going up and up and up, then that turning point where everything is just like, okay, what just happened? Like that height, the real conflict has finally come ahead, and now, hello, welcome to the consequences of your actions. That's where you're at. You're now. People are starting to deal with the consequences. They're starting to come face to face with what they have done, things that have transpired, and this pretty much leads to the resolutions of the story, or it does answer some questions before continuing the story, and that is key. So, having said all that, I have an example because I believe a lot of us are visual learners. And so I have my very own novella, The New Era. And in this story, I wanted to point out a few things. So, the one way that I continuously am true to the structure, I make sure that everyone knows right away before they even get into the chapter who is talking. You need to know who the characters are. So I make that abundantly clear. There are even two sections within the story. And I love them because, again, a lot of people, once you start reading my work, you'll notice, like, yeah, like this is the beginning. You know, there are three characters that are about to start talking, and it's the last test. So test has multiple meanings, and so when I use that, I want it to be very clear. Like, okay, they done tested me for the last time. And then literally the first chapter starts off characters. I personally like to give readers the character's name because I feel like once they have a name and I describe the action, I immediately start with action in the story because it's my first supernatural. Like, I had to go hard or I had to pack it up. And this story, again, every chapter starts with the character. You know exactly who is speaking. And then I went ahead and I described the scene because I need you to know where they are. So that way things start to make more sense. Okay, I know who my character is, who I'm supposed to be focused on, or who I'm supposed to be concerned about, or who I'm supposed to be angry with. I know where they are. And then I want you to tap into how they're feeling, like with this story. And each of those characters connect. So, what is the conflict? The conflict is almost immediate within the first two pages of each chapter. So, again, this is supernatural. How you choose to combine your elements, your style, those are things that we're going to discuss further on into this semester. But right away, I want you to be concerned with the plot, the characters, the setting, the tension. Those are literally the foundations. Those are your elements of your composition. You are building this roller coaster ride for your readers. And if those aren't sound, it's going to fall apart. And that's dangerous. So keep that in mind when we talk about coherence going forward in your storytelling. And I would love for you in the comments to share with me a story that you felt maybe wasn't coherent. It had potential, but somehow it got lost in the sauce. Share a pet peeve of yours when reading a story. I'll share one of my own because this is something that I honestly struggled with as an indie author. Um, Head hopping. Head hopping refers to when you are reading the story from one character's point of view and it immediately jumps to another character, or you're not quite sure who is talking to whom in the story. That's something that I still struggle with, and that's also, spoiler alert, why a lot of my stories start with the character's name, because I don't want to forget who you should be worried about in the story, and I don't want to forget. So that is typically my workaround with in regards to that. So yeah, share in the comments a story that you felt really embodied this element coherence. And you can also, again, share a story that may have missed a mark. Maybe it was a really great story, but it wasn't completely there when you're talking about being coherent. So thank you all again so much for watching this video, and I can't wait to be back here to talk about week 3. So, all right, everyone, as always, continue reading, continue writing, continue loving the process. This is author Kay McCoy, and I am signing off for now. Goodbye.